Hello, welcome to my personal YouTube and welcome to the explicit, unedited, full-length version of my interview with Legday. We talked about everything from London Spitfire, everything Overwatch 2, everything European contenders. As I said, this interview was for Esports News UK. So if you want the full-length version, that will be in the video description below, the full professional version. But here is the full length. It is the unedited. It is everything that we talked about. There was stuff that we talked about, as you can tell, that didn't and could not go into the interview. But the whole thing is just fucking hilarious. So, yeah, this is for me, for you guys, for everyone that wanted to see the full unedited version, because there's just stuff that I wanted to cut out that I wanted to show to people anyway, because it was so funny, and I'm sure everyone will thoroughly enjoy it. Right, I'll let the Daft Punk play out for a little bit, but let's get into the interview. Hello, and here we are. Joining with me is Legday for this portion of the interview. So before we get into the Spitfire and Tier 2, why don't you talk a little bit about yourself, Legs, and introduce yourself to the wider Esports News UK audience?
I'm Legday. I cast Overwatch Contenders, and when it's on the Overwatch World Cup for the last few years, and Jace is going to be releasing my family as hostages any day now for coming on this video.
Yes, definitely. Yep, real and true. 33rd President Harry S. Truman. But thank you so much, Legs. One of the main reasons I contacted you over this video was, as it says in my script, and as it will have said before, you almost have like a front row seat each month to Europe's premier Tier 2 talent. But before all of that, this will be a later question. We will start with question one, as all good interviews go. So in your opinion, obviously you were an avid Overwatch League watcher as well during your time as Tier 2. Definitely many a Spitfire fan stream hoping they get that first win, and they finally managed to get that. I believe that one win that came against Vancouver. Where do you think that fundamentally, where do you think the Spitfire fell down this year? Not in the sense of where to point fingers, but like, what do you think went wrong systematically for them?
I think that they were trying to lift the success that British Hurricane had in Contenders in 2020 into Overwatch League, but they kind of lost too many pieces along the way to do that. They hired a new head coach who didn't seem to have a prior relationship with the team. They lost Daned, quite importantly, who was a real punching weight behind their DPS line, and they kind of sort of they pasted over the cracks with Blase and Hybrid, who did have the kind of hero pool to fill what Daned was doing, but I don't think it really was as effective. And of course, we also had a lack of Sparker for the first couple of months as well, and that really affected us. I think that Sparker and Daned were part of the magic that made British Hurricane so good, and it made it much harder to turn British Hurricane into London Spitfire to not have those two for at least most of the season.
Yeah, I agree. I think Sparta was a massive part as well. Danid individually. I think that roster just built up so much synergy going into it. Transitioning to the Overwatch League was difficult enough if you took that core six and that coaching unit. Personally, I think keeping both Shax and Sparker, though, were great moves, and I'm sure you will agree. But heading into Overwatch 2 with 5v5 on the horizon, I just want to focus a little bit for a microsecond on the remnants of this Spitfire roster from this season. So, what do you think about Shax and Sparker's performances this season, and what do you think their performances should look like as we head into Overwatch 2 and Season 5?
I think there's a little bit of a conception that Shax fell off this year, but I don't think that's entirely Shax's fault. I think that Shax was having a little bit of trouble this year synergizing with our tank line, and that made it a lot more difficult to pull off a successful Tracer, because as we've seen since like the time of Apex Season 4, ever since Gesture and Profit, right? Like main tank Tracer synergy has been integral to an effective fast attack, and that's what Gesture and Profit brought to the table, and I don't think that Haddy and Shax managed to get that together very quickly. It was a little bit cleaner with Haddy and Sparker, and while they are both very good DPS, we are going to have to recruit more on London Spitfire because they've got a somewhat limited pool between them. It's mostly hit scan. Notably, though, Shax does have a very good Pharah, so that's always in the back pocket.
Yes,
but we're definitely going to be needing to look for something that's a little bit more flexible as well. And I imagine that most rosters are going to be little bit more stacked on the DPS number side now that they don't have to account for having 2 tanks in at a time.
Yeah, absolutely. Just quickly, obviously, we'll touch on it in a later question, but first name off the top of your head, you've got not quite an unlimited budget, but let's say a realistic budget for the Spitfire, considering, their history and their sort of almost history in the transfer market for Overwatch League is, who would be the first name on the list for you to bring in as what probably would likely be a projectile DPS, considering Sparta and Shax do veer more towards the hit stands in the Overwatch, in the general DPS roster?
It's kind of a split recommendation for me for a flex DPS, and it would be either Shockwave, who's my personal favorite, or EQO, both of whom were released by the Philadelphia Fusion recently.
Yeah, fair enough. Any throw in there for Backbone, maybe, coming up from contenders, British player?
I mean, Backbone's pretty damn good, man. Like, if you could pick up Shockwave, Backbone, I wouldn't mind that reinforcement to the DPS line at all.
Yeah, I don't think anyone would. So yeah, with the DPS line, as you said, I think that could be very strong, particularly having, I think, a core 3-man rotation. We've just seen it today at the time of recording. Dallas's DPS line is going to be monstrous next year with as if they needed anyone else. They've got Edison. I think Edison was so incredibly underutilized on Atlanta just because of how good Pelican and Kai were. So I'm looking forward to him popping off, and he's got to compete with Doa and Sparkle of all people. But moving away from DPS, and I think it's going to be definitely the role that everyone's got their eyes on for next year, but I think what might make more of an impact is the support, and particularly that one tank. So keeping those DPS means the entire removal of the tank and the support pool. Outside of the British Hurricane, before we do go to the Hurricane, actually, it'll be a 2-part question. We'll start with outside of the British Hurricane. Who do you think from Tier 2 in Europe looks ready to step up to that Overwatch League level?
I'd say without a doubt, Exarath is my first choice. I've been watching this guy for years now. He's been grinding the Tier 2 scene real hard. And critically, Exarath he's got a lot of variety in the hero pool as a flex support, and can also play a couple of main support heroes as well. But rumor on the street at the moment is that a lot of Overwatch 2 rosters are being generated with double flex support in mind. Yeah. So you could pick up someone from British Hurricane and Exarath as well, and then have the double flex support from that.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of support, my first name on the list, not just because I think he might be the best, because I think he deserves it the most, is the richest man in Estonia, Mr. Admiral Raptor. I think Admiral has just been so good in Tier 2 for Europe that, at the very least, he deserves a crack at the shot. He's young, he's hungry, he's been around for a while. Exarath as well. I think I remember seeing Exarath. Was he at the Gauntlet in Germany? Is he that old, Exarath? Or that around the scene that long? That one with the one that
Exarath
Astro was on Atlanta at the time. That timeline.
I don't think Exarath was at the Gauntlet in Korea. That was Ding who ended up there.
Right.
With HSL?
Yeah, it might have been, because they won contenders around that time.
Yeah, I think that one was Ding. I think Exarath just missed out on that event. In fact, Exarath's story has been interesting because they finally have a roster that kind of matches their skill. For like the last 2 years, well, not including this one, but 2 years before 2021, Exarath was kind of a shining star on weaker teams.
Yeah.
And was often like one of the real shining lights on rosters that had weaknesses elsewhere.
So just for everyone at home, or people that aren't as geared on contenders, what team is Exarath currently on, and how has he recently done in these sort of later contenders months?
Exarath is on Falcons Esports, and it's gold medals across the board, really. Yeah. They've only lost a single month of contenders out of our 6 tournaments. I believe they lost 1 month to British Hurricane. I think it was June. Aside from that, golds across the board. Basically, they are as dominant, if not more so, than British Hurricane were in 2020.
That's a really sort of strong sentiment. I think that is a good level for everyone to get themselves on, because this Falcon Esports team have just been running rampant through EU. So next to Exarath, maybe in that double flex support, as you said, you've got sort of 2 option slots there left to fill legs from Europe, from Hurricane, either or. Who would you sort of think pair next to Exarath from contenders?
I'd love to see Scarippa there. I'd also love to see Slay from Shoes Money Crew, but
no bias.
Wearing
the merch.
But I do wonder, like, if Slay's LFT for Owl, I would love to see Slay.
I think he is.
But Slay is also like on the retirement seesaw, you know?
Mm.
Slay is kind of in and out. It's like Slay and Ding, the two poggers Danish flex supports, were like take it in turns to retire and unretire.
Yeah, I think Ding went to Apex. He went to Apex, didn't he? And then came back. Or he might have gone to Valorant. I'm pretty sure he went to Apex and came back though, right?
I'm not entirely sure. I know that they did a stint coaching for a while.
Yeah.
I don't know what other games Ding did.
I've seen Ding. Ding's been around for absolutely ages though. So Slay and then Sky Reaper from British Hurricane as well. Yeah, Sky Reaper's been really.
I think Sky Reaper would be my first choice, just because it's obviously an easy move to bring up people from British Hurricane. Though I do wonder if London will be a little bit reticent about doing a British Hurricane promo after this year's debacle.
Yeah. I think as well it would be a little bit maybe, I don't know. I'm almost scared for them that they feel that after the kind of considerate failure, especially I think personally I thought that British Hurricane were going to be good early because they had that synergy.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a brawl meta at the start of the season, if you remember. And the Hurricane just were not good. Blase at times looked like he was in a different lobby compared to everyone else on the Spitfire.
Man was playing Habbo Hotel.
Yeah, honestly, he was the Blase May was not the best. Let me say that, but I think they are a bit scared of bringing up a lot of Hurricane just to face that same backlash.
Yeah, like the last time they did it, it was a dominant British Hurricane that had lost like one match all year.
Yeah,
and this British Hurricane is like eternal second place. Third place even at points. They've won before as well, but it's definitely not the dominance that we saw from British Hurricane in 2020. And I wonder to what degree that's going to weigh on decision making for London Spitfire.
I really do, and I hope that they don't sort of go one way, they go all the way to one end of the spectrum because of that. It is unfortunately like ratio plus you fell off Spitfire, plus you fell off Hurricane, but like Falcon were good. And actually, speaking of Falcon, I just realised it completely popped my head as I was writing these questions. It looks like from not a leak, but from a tweet from a Saudi org that Surma Jed is actually going to be going to the Overwatch League, and I think it's likely based on the fact that there are only two teams he could go to, and one of them already has Korn on flex support. The likely destination will be the baby blue, the sky blue of the London Spitfire. So for anyone that's a bit unaware, quickly, again, not prepared you for this, but Surma Jed, what are your thoughts on him? What does he play? What is he strong at? And how do you think he'll fit into Overwatch 2?
I think Surma Jed has been pretty consistently great across over a year. One of the first players I ever casted in Contenders Trials when we first set up a broadcast of that back in 2019. It was on a team called Oshtek Warriors, full of Saudi players.
He was on Oshtek?
Yes, he was on
My
Oshtek.
God, that's a throwback. Holy.
It is a real throwback. And one of the things that really struck me about Surma Jed is that they actually got picked up for a North American team called Bobby Wasabi by a bunch of hugely desirable veterans like OG and Speedily over in North America. And I looked at it, I was like, if these guys had the pick of a litter of any flex support they wanted from North America, to be honest, just because of the prestige they had, and they chose to grab a guy from Saudi Arabia who'd be playing on like 200 ping.
Yeah.
Like, Samaj's got to be absolutely knocking out of the park for him to make that decision.
Yeah, true. That's a really good point. I think what I know from Majed is that I know a few guys that sort of play still in the high elo rank, and they're just like, man, I'm on my top 500 game, but the enemy team have Majed in the lobby, and he just farmed our flex support. He just farmed our tracer for 9 minutes on Li Zhang. The guy is just everywhere. He's not quite up to the level of like Funny Astro with 5 accounts in the top 10, but I think that's something that I just like, because especially from perspective of other games now, these solo queue, these grindy players, I think it's going to be really important, particularly going into Overwatch 2. I'm sure you will agree that you need to hit the game, you need to hit ranked, you need to grind this game because it's going to be brand new. So having someone that is just willing to just sort of hard farm ranked repeatedly, even if they end up getting like a Masters Ball OTP in their 4.4 game, right? Like you need those kind of players, and Majed is absolutely one of those. So we've looked a little bit into contenders, and we'll look a bit more, but we're in this sort of point where hopefully the way this video gets scheduled, and specifically at the time of recording, there is so much EU talent left on the market that has been dropped from Overwatch League teams. Unfortunately, Funny Astro has just walked to the Gladiators. Would have loved to see him on the Spitfire. There is FD God left, who might go back to Paris, might not. But like, particularly looking at the DPS, particularly looking at the non-DPS roles, looking at those tanks and those supports again, ignoring the leaks, anyone from Overwatch League that you think is a steal, is a must-have for the Spitfire? Who's top of that list? Who's maybe sort of in that sort of 45th late round that you think could be a diamond in the rough for them?
Like I mentioned Shockwave before, Shockwave is my number one pick for Spitfire. I think Shockwave is an absolute monster.
Yeah, he's a nut.
And I think they were super underutilized on Philly just because they couldn't get there in time with a visa to scrim. And obviously the other big boys that you want to look at are FD God and Poco. But I think both of them are much more likely to be going to Paris. Like, I don't think Paris would have dropped Vestola if they weren't planning on maybe trying to grab Poco.
Yeah.
Because it's no surprise that Poco is the best French player around at the moment.
Yeah,
that's
sure.
like that's the big ruby in the crown of the Paris roster to be able to grab Poco.
The creme de la creme, right? Like literally the creme de la creme. I believe that's a French saying in itself. So
Oni God's also floating around, and
you are a big Oni stan. Big Oni simp.
I am a big Oni stan, but I don't know if there's room for him on the London roster with both Shax and Sparker there already.
I think just from Oni's hero pool, he had a rough stint on Dallas, obviously, but I think he did fine on Paris. I would say for sure that Naga, I think, stood out a little bit more, in my opinion. But I think you do just make a good point that Oni, Shax, and Sparker, just, you know, the Spider-Man meme of just the whole...
Yeah.
It would be that, wouldn't it? It'd just be Tracer, Widow. If there's ever a meta, if we go into Overwatch 2 and all projectiles just get deleted from the game, then that's the best three in Europe for sure. However, bar Kevster, obviously, the Scrim God, the replay code, the real reason that Blizzard delete and they refresh the replay codes each patch is, I believe, to stop the black market from selling Kevster replay codes. I don't know if you've heard about the ongoings in low GM, high GM of Europe, but people will pay a lot for the Kevster replay codes in ranked. That's quite the conspiracy. But,
wow, that's a thing. What in the world?
It just again,
Overwatch espionage. This is what happens when you're 5 years into an esport and hasn't got an update for about a year.
I think it's just similar to, like, you know, like the obsession with like the Sasquatchuan, whatever his name is, the Bigfoot thing in like the North Mountains of America. I think the Kevster replay codes are the same for Europe, so they're like a little myth and they're a very rare entity. But because Tank's going to be such a weird role, right? Like, both tanks from the Spitfire have gone, Molfig is gone, Hadi is gone. I would love Vestola back, because I think if there is a Sigma meta, he's probably one of the best in Europe at it, even going into Overwatch 2, where we don't know what Sigma could be like. And I think Sigma might be stronger, but again, it depends. I spoke with Cass the other day. Cass made a great point that Sigma sucks against flankers now, and Overwatch 2 is definitely going to be a bit more flanker heavy. So I'm just trying to think, throw some more names from Tier 2 from Overwatch League into the hat for tanks, like, because those are the ones that I'm really looking at right now, and I'm kind of worried about Europe's tank pool at the moment. What do you think about that?
I'm feeling Hades, man. I think that Hades has got some great aggression. Can play basically all of the tanks. Seems to be a pretty good leader as well, and I think that's going to be super important. But obviously, you can't talk about tanks in EU without talking about Lolsish, who's been around forever. And I feel like Lolsish was kind of cheated of a chance to prove themselves by visa issues. Like, they were picked up for Washington when they were playing with like roster with Corey, when they were very much invested in being able to make this mixed roster work, but it kind of just fell apart at the beginning of Season 3 because Lolsish couldn't get that visa. I'd love to see Lolsish in a place where they can not have to worry about visa. They're just in the EU and they can just keep playing as well as they had on Falcons. Yeah.
I would like to see Lolsish get a second crack at the whip, for sure. Any room maybe for Cloudy? Again, sort of the folklore of EU ladder, the so-called free thinkers when Cloudy says speed main. What do you
The
think
greatest
about?
Reinhardt in the world.
Yeah, definitely
So
one of the best Reinhardts to ever touch the game, and Finnish Warlord. It's always fun. I always love seeing Finnish players in the Overwatch League. It's a shame we've not had that third generation. We had Giganti and then Giganti 2, and then we kind of stopped. But yeah, any room for Cloudy, do you think, or too narrow of a hero pool?
I'm not entirely sure. Cloudy's got a really good Winston as well.
Yeah, I
But the
agree.
thing is, you're demanding more and more of your tanks as we go forward because their tank pool's got to expand to get the off tanks in there as well. So maybe you want to look at some off tanks to try and pick up some of this slack, in which case I'm looking more towards Fincy for that veteran presence, you know?
Yeah, Finzi again. Finzi was on Valiant, and then he was on Paris, right?
Yep.
For
Two-timer in the Overwatch League. Then was on Team Envy. And then Doge, and has sort of like been battered around since then. And then got picked up in emergency by British Hurricane when Vestola was poached
when
away by Paris.
yeah. I think it would be cool to see Cloudy, Lotus, or Finzi all back in the Overwatch League. Again, I would give chance to someone like Hades because he has been popping off, absolutely. But it would be always good to see someone like that back because it's just great narrative for Europe, and it gives us a sort of it would give me a nice sort of warmer feeling. It would be you've proved yourself in contenders, and now you get a second shot at the scene. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just those tank issues, and the tank role is going to be so important heading into Overwatch 2, as we said. I was watching the Plat Chat podcast the other day where we got I got some copium takes from Sideshow, just like sign a 50k tank, I'll wait to see how the tank role develops, pick the best tank player up in contenders mid-season. But yeah, the tank role I think is definitely going to be the biggest question mark, and it could potentially end up being more dominant than what it's been in Overwatch's past, but I doubt it. Looking forward, so far, though, we're going to look back for a second a bit more. So, as a stalwart Spitfire copium enjoyer, as yourself, Legs, how do you feel about this iteration of the roster moving forward? What they've built already, what they built last year compared to the past versions? And yes, we will include the blip in time. It felt like a Thanos snap, weirdly, that was the Season 3 roster. So, how do you feel about the first two seasons in LA with Prophet, Gesture, Fury, Birdring, who like half of that roster have retired now? I have no idea where Nuss has gone, but
I have
going
no
into
idea either, man.
and then season 3, all that young talent that was scouted by S&T, and then now all of them have been gone to the wind. God knows where Hiley's also gone. I guess Spitfire just have a rep of just making supports just disappear. So who knows? Like, where have they all gone? Like, they just Fuse. Where did Fuse go? I mean, you're probably a bit happier that Fuse sort of went walkies, but.
Like Mr. Etienne's got like a couple of unmarked graves in his backyard.
Oh my god, I hope not. Oh no! It's just missing persons posters for the whole plot.
Have you seen this support?
The whole plot to Life is Strange 1 all over again. All the supports are Rachel Amber. But yeah, what do you think about those first two rosters? What were your thoughts on them shifting from Korean to Europe and all that sort of stuff? But let's start out with we'll go for your thoughts on the first two iterations of the Spitfire.
I was actually a London Spitfire fan from the beginning because of their roster. I didn't really care about geolocation at all. Like,
Yeah,
I wasn't going to go to London to watch a game, but I was a huge fan of Korean Overwatch, and Prophet is without a doubt my favorite player ever, my number one MVP.
Same.
And also Fury is my favorite tank player ever. So I was very happy with that season 1 roster, and of course I went on to win it, which felt pretty good. I didn't even mind that season 2 was a bit of a damp squib from from a perspective of how poorly London dealt with the GOATS meta, but I think that might have been more of a coaching issue because London have a really weird thing where they won the league and then they blew up their back room.
They did. There was I can't say too much of it, obviously, because this is we are on a channel here for Esports News UK. There was, I believe, a book that was released, and there was a whole list of conspiracies. That is, I can't really say too much, but there's a whole, you could debate. This is like X-Files level conspiracy theories. Changoon just up and left to the Seoul Dynasty, like randomly. Hukarai never came across. There was apparently backroom fighting between Closer and Badosin, and that's why those two never played together, even though that was definitely London's best back line. Nuss apparently only getting into the starting lineup because he was a beta and he did listen to Badosin. So who knows? Who knows? Like,
it was Badosin's bottom pitch.
Oh, he might have been. Oh, this interview might not go up on Esports News UK. Might be too un-PG, but nonetheless.
That bit's gonna get bleeped. That's
we
been
might have
left
to
on the
edit.
editing room floor.
We might have to edit that out, but nonetheless, I do agree with you. There was a lot of criticism at the start, but I think anyone that knew, because the other option was he who shall not be named was apparently also on the list, who went to Valorant and then got banned from Valorant, and we shall say no more. He was apparently also, before he went to the Shock, apparently he was also on the list that C9 wanted. I think it was Jack Etienne, this is C9 guy, right? He come out and said, we wanted to get but we couldn't get him, so we just went and got Korea's best team. And then another team from Korea won, so we bought them too.
Oh man,
they also wanted Lunatic High. If you remember, they also wanted Lunatic High. They didn't. They got the second best team, and then Gesture and Profit popped up with nowhere, said, "What up, bitch? We're the best dive team in the world." And then they got signed.
That's possibly the most amusing formation of a team in esports that there's ever been.
It really is. Yeah,
we want to win, so we'll buy Kongdu because we think they're going to be the best team, and then Kongdu get beaten by GC Busan. We're like, okay, we'll buy them too.
I remember a really highly gilded comment when that was revealed or it was rumored, and it was like, roses are red, violets are blue. I can't believe it. They've beaten C9. Something like they've I forget the copy pasta. I think I've butchered it, but roses are red, violets are blue. London Spitfire have actually bought both Busan and C9 Kongdu, or something like that. It was definitely a shock, but moving past those first two seasons...
Roses are red, Spitfire is blue. If you can't beat them, buy them. Busan and Kongdu.
Yes, there we go. That was probably something similar, and that's what they should be remembered as. It was just two mashes of a roster together. But it was still one of my favourite Overwatch League teams of all time. Like, having Profit and Birdring in the same DPS duo was
Rascal was there too.
Rascal what? And then they traded him away. Traded him away to get ploughed under a bus by AKM and the Dallas Fuel, of all things.
Oh,
I went from playing with
Fisher was sold as well.
Yeah, no, but I always I'm gonna do an alternate history piece on my own personal YouTube about one day about what happened if London kept Fisher, because that was such a I feel so bad for Rascal, by the way. He went from being with Korea with his best friend of all, Birdring, to playing with AKM and being coached by Kai Kai. Like, oh my, I feel so bad for him. I thank God he won a championship. Thank God Rascal won a championship or two with the Shock.
Oh my God!
Because after getting coached by Kai Kai, he deserved it. Absolutely.
London is just—it's such a roller coaster, dude.
Yeah, just like.
I mean, season 3, we're just like, okay, these guys are pretty good scouts. They had what's his name, Pavane, of course, who scouted Jonax. We were like, you know what? This guy's got some scouting chops.
They had SNT too.
Awesome,
awesome guy scouted, I believe. Basically, anyone that didn't come from the Gen organization.
Oh yeah, they had the degrees of Gen. They had like a Gen S and Gen B people. Yeah, just like people who are the academy team with the academy team with the academy team with the academy team.
I think they just walked into Gen G's training facility, saw anyone playing Overwatch, and said, "Sure, have a tryout." Like, why not?
I feel like what happened, even though there's no basis to this, it's complete speculation.
No, it's complete.
But obviously,
not.
Soul grabbed Gesture and Profit, right? Yeah. And they are not cheap players. I feel like in that deal, London were just like, yo, we get to just like, what do we call it? A supermarket dash. What is it? A trolley dash?
Yeah,
for
trolley
your
dash.
Academy teams.
Yeah,
like, I want that.
I think I remember tweeting Mr. Reliable Source Halo of Thoughts. I think I actually tweeted him at the time, like, was there any going on here between London and Seoul about we'll give you Profit and Gesture if you give us all of these guys for super cheap? And he said he didn't know or he couldn't confirm it, or it wasn't true. Which I think is technically 3 answers, but basically he said he had no idea, and he thought it likely wasn't true, but there must have been something going on there, like especially to get Glister as well, who was wanted by so many teams.
Yeah, managed to grab Glister from Gen G, and to be honest, it'd be difficult to be the team that Glister said yes to, when they had
absolutely.
publicly dumped all of their great talent, including Fury going to Philly, which really made me angry.
Yeah. I won't ramble on too
mad.
much. I won't ramble on too much. I can sense it. And then he got dropped by Philly for Poco. When they finally had Mono Fury, Carpe, Rascal. They could have had Mono Fury, Carpe, Rascal, Toby, and Alarm, and they just randomly decided to drop Fury, which is weird because if they knew that Fury was going, they definitely knew that at that time they knew they weren't going to Korea, if you think about it. Just why would you go to Korea and drop Fury just to sign Hopper? Oh, it's
physically painful to think about.
Their road, not mine. No, they're stuck in Korea and they lost their Philadelphia fan base, so GR. But they look like they're going to be building off that T-Ron roster, so best of luck Philly in that season.
Now Fury and Mag have to deal with the Limp Dick tank line that's getting edited out. The Limp Dick support line of Washington.
Yeah, they have gone now though. There will be. I believe
they did drop them both. I guess that was pre-admitting. Okay, we thought it'd be fine.
I think even the most deep dished Redditor could have saw that the Washington backline was not it. And that it was just not there. It was
a dub for the Reddit analysts, right? It was like one of the first confirmed dubs for the Reddit analysts who were
this backline ain't it, no.
This is stupid. The coaching staff were like, no, it's fine. They performed consistently across all the different support duos, and so I picked them up, and Reddit was like, mate, have you looked at every other championship team ever? They had a support line that kicked ass. If they didn't have a good support line,
at least
if they didn't have an impressive support line, then they were bad or at best mediocre. And Washington were like, no, all we need is good DPS and good tanks. Trust me.
Copium. I think it was almost a trend as well because all the good teams had supports that came through basically that year and were very in sync with the way that the game worked macro wise. But Closer at times on Washington just looked like he was still playing for GC Busan in Apex Season 4. Like
maybe he was still scarred by the fights of Budashi.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? Again, unconfirmed, not true. Just to let everyone know, but it is rumors. But there was definitely something that went on there that has all been but confirmed, and I think it's easy to speculate anyway. So so as we've moved past those first rosters, we had a quick look back at the first two iterations of the Spitfire, and we said I guess a bit more or sort of quick extended. That's what's the word? They don't work together. Give me a quick thoughts about a bit more about the Spitfire this year. Like, do you think they did the right job in only keeping Jackson Sparker, or was there anyone else on that roster or in that coaching staff that they dropped that you thought you could have had a second crack at the whip?
It's a bit of a convoluted answer. In an Overwatch 1 to Overwatch 1 scenario, I would have kept Molfig. But
agreed.
London know a lot more than me about what a tank line is going to look like next year. So I can't blame people too much for dropping tanks when I don't know what is going to be required of a tank line.
Yeah, absolutely. I think just getting someone... The same with... I made this point earlier about Majed, right? Just having someone that's willing to grind the game and learn it and be coachable and adjust, I think is going to be absolutely huge. So getting someone in that is ready to just be almost molded, I think is going to be great. Molfig still could have been that, to be fair, but maybe they thought that he just wasn't quite flexible enough onto the main tanks, for example. So, who knows? But as I said, I was a Spitfire fan myself, particularly for the first 2 to 3 seasons. This time, I'm sort of watching them a bit less these days as I'm more awake on Korean schedule and NA schedule. So I've not managed to watch the Spitfire as much, and definitely shifted towards Seoul to see Prophet and Gesture play as two of my favourite duo. But I'm invested as a UK esports fan to see where London go next year. That's for sure. Okay, so I think we've gotten already. This interview's been chopped and changed. I can't quite tell, but it's been probably 15-20 minutes. So we're getting towards the final question here. And before we go off, before I give you the chance to obviously promote yourself and say some final words, Give me some spice, give me some sauce, give me a spicy prediction about Overwatch 2, maybe a hero becomes OP, and give me a hot take or leftward signing you think the Spitfire could make.
Okay. Hottest take I have. Spitfire sign Ball/Chasm from where is it at the moment? I think he's on Oh Yeah. He's on Oh Yeah.
The avoided ball? Tractor Kid? Yeah.
They signed Tractor Kid from Oh Yeah. They signed the Ball specialist. And Ball, as a tank who's used to playing alone without help, is just a bit of a rogue mercenary in the jungles of London. Absolutely dominates in a one-tank meta.
I could actually, it's not that crack pipe, which is the crazy thing, because Ball, I've always said Ball doesn't synergize with any other tank in the game. If he goes into Overwatch 2 in this state, I think Ball could be really strong in Overwatch 2, and who better than one of the best balls in the world? I think it's unfortunate because whilst he is probably one of the better balls in the world, he was really good at all the techs, and they kind of removed a lot of the tech from his kit. So,
there will always be more techs. Ball finds more.
True, there will.
You can't stop a man with 2,000 hours on Wrecking Ball.
You can't. He'll find a way to bring back the triple boot.
That level of degeneracy cannot be contained.
Genuinely, he'll just find a way to bring back like the quadruple boot somehow. Like he'll find a way to get two tethers in like 8 seconds. I don't know. He is just that good at the hero. So Ball, I think Ball being signed, the Ball player, is very, very spicy. I would love to see it for sure. I think it would be sad for any non-Ball fans, because I just hate Wrecking Ball as a hero. It's just such a rat hero. I just really don't like Wrecking Ball and Wrecking Ball.
Do you hate it because you often have a Wrecking Ball on your team as a tank, and you're like, oh, yes, I guess I'm playing solo tank now.
Wrecking Ball and Hog players are the sole reason that I stopped solo queuing tank in this game. Like just the whole reason
won't be an issue in Overwatch 2. The tank that doesn't need help will be the strongest tank.
I can be the solo queue ball.
And now I'm the ball.
Yeah, you either die your hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain, I guess. So who knows? I think for me, and I hope is that Blizzard release one hero per role at least. And I think someone like Sojourn or Mauga might be a name that I'm going to throw out, who we might see popped up. Is a Baptiste's friend in the lore, I believe, who was apparently a rumored revealed hero. People said from leaks akin to the Heavy. If you remember in the Horizon,
yeah, he does look like the Heavy, doesn't he? Like in terms of just stature and how they hold the minigun and stuff.
Yeah, and was it in the Havana cinematic for the Archives event? There's someone that I believe Maximilian.
Oh, that's the evil Omnic.
Yes, the evil Omnic. He might also be in the really big evil Omnic, not like the rich one that they captured, the really big one with the mask and the dreads. I think he could be in the game, or who knows either way. And maybe the Junker Queen as a support, who knows? Like there's so many teased characters that they could release, but I think one of those will be picked up, and I think I would love to see London just go ahead and grab the first one. Like if there's a really OP tank that Blizzard released, because Blizzard always managed to break tanks in this game, it's been proven. If maybe Mauga comes out and he's super OP, they just go and grab the best Mauga in EU contenders and he comes in and he dominates. I think that would be like my spicy take from that.
XQC comes back to Overwatch, masters Mauga, gets recruited by London Spitfire, wins for League.
Drops the mic, gifts 100 subs to himself in the Overwatch League. Overwatch League's back on Twitch and he just leaves.
Yeah, I think that's 100% accurate.
Yeah, he wins over London. Imagine it. I'm dreaming it already. London win Overwatch League. They go to the mic and they say, "Felix, it's been a long road back here. You signed with London of all teams. Do you have any words for him?" And he just looks into the mic and he goes, "Any primers?"
He looks into the mic.
He looks into the microphone and then he looks into the camera and then he looks at. Listen, okay.
He stares into the microphone.
Yeah, he doesn't know. Actually, it's defendable because he doesn't know how to eye contact. If you ever XQC is, it's XQC. That's something that he would do, even though I definitely did misspeak. He looks into the microphone, he looks into the camera, and he says, "Any primers?" and then there you go. What a story arc that would be, and what a mess of an Overwatch League. Imagine. Oh my.
We need a little touch of madness.
We do. I think it would be good for the Spitfire, especially as a lot of teams. What is just your quick thought as well? Is this something that we've sort of been seeing from the North American teams? We've all been trying to scrounge for that one good NA team, American Tornado, and the remnants of that team. What do you think about sort of buying the best talent versus representatives? Obviously, you are a British caster, EU through and through, literally cast contenders. So you've seen these guys in their region play, and obviously you would think you'd have some level of attachment to them and you'd want them to do well. What do you think about that level of homegrown versus like just getting the best players, even if they come from Korea or China or North America?
I just want the best Overwatch, man. I don't care who's playing it. Like I don't like watching bad Overwatch. And local players doesn't mean bad Overwatch, but I just want the highest tier that is available. And I mean, if you are gonna go local and you can't build a competitive roster, which arguably you really can with the options that have been presented here.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
if you can't, go Chengdu Season 2 and just be fun to watch. Because the worst thing about London this season was that
They were fun.
bad and boring.
Yeah. Okay. Little bit of a bump in the road tech-wise, but we are back. And funnily enough, yeah, that's basically just going to be more towards the end of the interview. Thank you so much, lads, for coming on. This was a nice chat, a good reminisce, a bit of a laugh, a bit of a joke, and some good insight into European contenders' talent as well. I just one last question before you go. Let's give you a bit of a fantasy reality. You have an unlimited budget, and you need two tanks, you need 2 supports, and you need 1 DPS. You can do Overwatch League, you can do Tier 2. The only premise is that they can't be from the Eastern regions. They can't be Korean, they can't be Chinese. We will allow North American talent at the exception of American Tornado. So you can't get anyone from AT, China, or Korea. Who are your first 5 on the list? And they sign just no questions asked. Like you present them a contract, and then there you go. Who's your 5?
So no American Tornado. That's all their alumni, right?
Yes, anyone that's been on an American Tornado team, because they are obviously all currently in contention to be signed by Florida or Atlanta. So,
all right.
Anyone else from North American or European contenders, or in Overwatch League that's currently a free, they have to be a free agent in Overwatch League. Let me add that as well. 2 tanks, 2 supports, 1 DPS.
I am 2 tanks,
2 supports, 1 DPS.
You just want 2-2-2. Oh no, I need 1 DPS to sign alongside Shax and Sparker, I see.
Yeah.
So my tanks are Lulsish and Poker.
Yep.
My DPS is Shockwave.
Yep.
And my supports are Exarath and Scarippa.
And then let's just throw in a main support just to round out the roster just in case.
I would grab Admiral.
Grab Admiral, yeah. Makes sense, okay. I think, to be honest, I agree with that. I think that's nothing too spicy, nothing too ambitious. I think all those are very, very realistic, and I really like.
I was going to put Ball on all 5 roles, but I didn't know if that would pass muster.
Just give him all 5 PCs. Just let him go
exactly. Just have him multi-box the entire league.
Fisher wanted to do that on the Gladiators. You could tell he really wanted to play all 5 roles. You could definitely tell he wanted to, but unfortunately, they're not. It's not like League of Legends where you can play Yumi with your feet and you can play ADC with your hands.
Yeah, I've got my Sona PC set up in the background.
Yeah, literally. Unfortunately not. But once again, as I said, it's been great having you on. Like, it's been fun chatting to you as always. So I'll give you the floor for the next minute and a half. Feel free to promote yourself, promote contenders, whatnot. Say thank you. Say shout out to anyone. Who knows? There you go. The floor is yours for promo.
I don't just flame London. I flame everyone. If you want to see me flame people specifically, you can check out my Overwatch League Lowlight series on YouTube, where I go in and I VOD review a game and I show you all of the stupid things that our players do so that you can feel that you are just among mortals when you watch Overwatch League games. Trust me. One episode of Lowlights and you feel like you could be in Overwatch League. And I also stream ranked, so you can see how bad I am myself and how inappropriate it is that I flame people at twitch.tv/Legday Gaming.
Yeah, do you have that in the intro, luckily? So I said I have given you the Twitch plug in the intro as well, so you got a second one there. If you guys want to see me in Legday Rank Games as well, then I also appear on his streams from time to time. Potentially Carrie getting a bit cracked on the Tracer. Profit impression sometimes. Profit impression sometimes, but No, it's all right. I think eventually I'll get to a point where I'm delusional enough to call my streams like the Fletter of Diamond. That is the goal.
That's pretty delusional, man.
Yeah, imagine doing that. Oof. Could never be us. Could never be us. But nonetheless, yeah, I also recommend if you guys are more fan of the slightly comedic content, Bar Lowlights. Legday does a great series which I've looked at a couple of times script-wise for Overwatch League Planet, where he narrates anything from a Chengdu player completely griefing it on Wrecking Ball to Pelican getting dumpstered in an Echo 1v1 on 150 ping.
As basically budget David Attenborough. So it's an interesting concept.
Budget David Attenborough. If David Attenborough had sort of smoked like 50 more cigarettes and aged like and rescinded like 20 years in age, I think you're basically on for the impression. But yeah, that's going to be it. We'll end it here on sort of a light-hearted note. Once again, it's been great having you on. If you guys are new around here and you're just clicking on the video from either me or Legs in the link, then we've got so much good stuff on Esports News UK in a multi-range of esports: League, Valorant, Overwatch, as we get into Overwatch 2, Dota, Sim Racing, anything. If it goes on our little island, then it is going to be covered here on the Esports News UK YouTube channel. If not, it will be on the official article blog website as well. That's going to be it. That's it from me. Once again, my name is Jason. I've been here with Legday for this interview. I will see you guys next time. Take care. Bye bye.